never be yourself, or you can never say how you really feel. Until now, yeah. When it's sundown, my mind is on the rundown, and like my happiness is on the come down. But when I speak to you, I feel like it's a touchdown. Finally found me someone I can really trust now. I always have so much to say, but no one to say it to. If I could talk to you today, I know I can make it through. So let's have this conversation, like a radio station. So let's have this conversation, like a radio station.
It's finally Friday, and it's time for the conversation with Maria Byrd.
What's up? Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to the conversation with Maria Byrd, and today we have a great show with a very special guest. He is the founder and senior pastor of Freedom Christian Ministry in Lawrenceville, Georgia. While serving as a deacon, he accepted his call into ministry and was licensed in 1996 and ordained in 2000 as a minister of the gospel under the leadership of Bishop Eddie Long at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. He holds a Master of Arts in Biblical and Theological Studies from Luther Rice Seminary and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration and Accounting from Winston-Salem State University and a certification in Biblical Counseling from Christian Research and Development located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Would you please help me welcome to the show my very special guest, Apostle Aaron Russian. Welcome to the show, Apostle.
Well, thank you, Maria. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. When I got the call from you that you wanted me to be on this show, I was like, oh, wow. I feel special. I mean, it's like I say, it's an honor to be here because this is something that I didn't expect. But, you know, at Freedom, we've declared that this year is the year of more. Oh, wow. And so God is saying, hey, you're going to get more opportunities to share who I am in different platforms, and hey, you get it started.
Wow.
We're
Yes,
so
Apostle.
Thankful for that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, Apostle, I had to have you come on the show. I just wanted to personally thank you. You've always been one of my biggest supporters. So, yes, I had to have you come on the show. And so, Apostle, before we get started, can you just tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm originally from North Carolina. I'm a native North Carolinian and moved here to the metro Atlanta area in 1986. It was because of a job transfer. And we've been here, my wife and I and the kids, we've been here since 1986. So we feel like we are just Atlanta people now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I say, we've been here all that time, and what brought us here was my job. And at that time, I was working for the Internal Revenue Service. And my boss then told me, he says, hey, if you ever think you're going to get promoted and move up in the ranks, you're going to have to get out of North Carolina. Because at the time, I was working in Greensboro, and he says, you're going to have to move. He says, so you need to start looking at some places where there are opportunities. And one of the places that I looked at was here in Atlanta. I met the assistant director. She told me, she said, when you get back home, fill out your paperwork. Don't send it through personnel. Send it directly to me. And this was in October. And the first week of November, I got a phone call, said, hey, you're being transferred to Atlanta.
Wow, that's incredible, Apostle. Yes.
Like, okay, culture shock. You know, now I told my wife about it, and we didn't think anything was going to happen anytime soon. And in a matter of weeks, you know, we're looking to move. And the guy called me and says, I need for you to report on this date. And I was like, that's 2 weeks away. What am I going to do? I got to find a place to live. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my family when they're going to come down. I can be there on that day, but I got other folk that I got to be concerned about.
Yes.
And so I came in November of 1985, and so I could start working and everything. And in January, matter of fact, on New Year's Day in January 1986, my wife and kids, they arrived, and hey, we've been here ever since.
Wow, that is so incredible, Apostle. Well, you know, one of your expertise is taxes. And so this is tax season, am I right? I mean, exactly when does tax season start?
Well, for most people,
Yes.
it starts in January. For me, it's a year-round thing.
Oh, wow.
It never ends. But the actual tax season does start the 1st of January, and it ends on April the 15th. Blessing for this year, everybody will have until April the 17th to get their tax returns filed.
Oh, wow.
Because the 15th is on a weekend, and then the 16th is a holiday in D.C., so everybody's allowed until April 17th to get their tax returns done.
Wow, so that's a nugget right there. We have until April the 17th,
April the 17th.
to file our taxes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
wow.
if you can't get them done by April the 17th, you can file for an extension, and that extension will give you until October the 15th to get them done.
Wow. And so, Apostle, let me ask you this. You know, has finances and taxes, has that always been one of your passions?
It has. It has. When I was in high school, I was working for my uncle. He had a cleaning business. We'd go around cleaning office buildings and stores and everything. And his partner, she came up to me, she told me, she says, I hear you're going to college. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to college. She says, what you going to major in? I said, well, I was thinking about going in, being a teacher or something like that. She says, you really need to consider going into accounting.
Wow.
And, I thought about it. I did a little research and checked on it and things. I said, I think I am. So when I got to school, I decided I was going to major in business administration with a concentration in the accounting field. And I've gone from there.
Wow.
And at the end of my sophomore year, I'm looking for an internship, and I couldn't find anything. I was like, oh, wow. Let me go down here to the dorm, pack my bags, and go home for the summer and figure out what I'm going to do with my life and everything. And I got a call. Well, I had actually one of the ladies that work in the placement office sent someone to my dorm and found me and said, Miss Jones needs to see you right away. And Doris Jones, who is like a mother to me, and she took me under her wings. I don't know why. And she took me under her wings. She says, look, you have an interview tomorrow with the Internal Revenue Service in Greensboro. She says, go back, make sure you got a dark suit, a white shirt, and a tie, and you be at this address at this time. She said, matter of fact, get there an hour early, so make sure that you're there on time. She says, you will get this job. She says, it's a shoo-in. I said, how can you be so sure? She says, look, I have connections, and the road has already been paid for you. Wow. I went to the interview, and before I left the interview, they told me, hey, we're hiring you. You're going to be starting on this day. You need to report to this office at this time. This is what you're going to be, where you're going to be, who you're going to be reporting to, and what you're going to be doing.
Wow.
And it's been that ever since. And that was in 1979.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow, that door, was already open for you. Like she said, the way was already paved. That's incredible. And so, Apostle, let me ask you this. When do you file your taxes? And do you file your taxes yourself?
Well, I'm going to answer the second part first. Yes, I do my own taxes. It would be very bad if the tax expert had somebody else doing their taxes. But I do my own taxes. I have been doing my own tax returns ever since I got trained in 1979. And I generally try to have my returns filed by the April 15th deadline. But there have been some times when I've filed that extension. But again, it's a matter of getting your returns filed timely, and that's what you have to do, because that's what the law mandates.
Yes, that's what the law mandates. Absolutely. And so, Apostle, regarding filing taxes, we want to start from the basics, right? And so, can you just tell us what is filing taxes, and then what is its significance?
Okay. The real significance of filing taxes, you have to go back, and this is going to be a little history lesson.
Yes.
When the original immigrants, I'm not calling them founding fathers, when the original immigrants came from England to the U.S., the reason that they left was because they felt that there was taxation without any representation. So they came to the U.S. to form and find a better way of doing things, a different way of doing things. And they set up a tax system. But if you really look at it, taxes go all the way back. You can go take it all the way back to the Bible, because Jesus spoke and he says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto God what is God. And at that time, what he was talking about was the tariffs and taxes that were being levied against the people. And that God says then, he says, we are to pay our taxes, give what is to the government, but make sure that you're also paying God what is due to God. So taxes evolved from that. And over the years, the tax system here in the U.S. has grown from, when I first started with the IRS, there was 2 books, the code. The tax code was 2 volumes.
Wow.
And 3 volume of regulations. Now you can't even put it in books.
Wow.
It's all electronic, and it's just evolved over the year. And what it is saying that in this country we believe that in order to support the things that the government will provide for the people, that there has to be a way for the government to have funding for this, and that funding comes by way of taxes. They levy a tax against certain things, and the main thing that they levy taxes against the normal everyday person is against your wages.
Wow.
Or your earnings. If you're a self-employed person and you have a business, if you're a corporation, they're going to tax you on the income that you make. But with everything is set up where it's trying to be fair. But one thing we have to realize, there's not going to be a totally fair system. Somebody is not going to be pleased, not going to be happy with how things are. But you have income that you have to report. All of your income that you make, that means everything that you earn, you're to report it as income. But then there are expenses that you can take to reduce that amount of income, and you're going to pay the tax on the net effect of the income, less all of your deductions and expenses.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. And so, what do you recommend? Because as you said, you are the expert when it comes to filing taxes. And so, what is the best way for us to file our taxes? Should we do it through a tax agency? Should we hire a personal tax expert such as yourself? Or should we attempt to do it ourselves online? What is the best way that you recommend?
I'm going to be biased. You need to come see me. But to be honest, if you don't possess the knowledge and the skill, it is best for you to seek out help from someone who has the expertise, because if you don't, it could create problems down the road. Now, we're in a technological age now, and everybody feels, oh, I can do this, and I can go online, and I can use TurboTax, I can use all of these things that are out there available. I'm tired of paying people to do my taxes for me. But what you lose is you lose that expertise. You lose that knowledge when you try to do it yourself if you don't have the proper training. You can be hurting yourself because you could be missing out on deductions that you could be in line for. You could be hurting yourself because something that you may think is not taxable income may be taxable income, and then you don't report it, and then later you get that little nasty gram from the IRS saying, hey, you forgot to report this, and now we won't you to send us a check for this amount.
Wow.
So what I recommend is that if you don't have the expertise, or if you don't feel comfortable, you need to seek out someone who can ensure that what's being put on that tax return is accurate.
Absolutely.
Because there can be some ramifications. If your return is in error, not only are you going to be responsible for paying the taxes back, but the IRS can also levy penalties and interest. And interest is compounded daily. So you take, if the interest rate is 5% today, it's compounded. And it's going to be compounded daily until you pay that balance off.
Wow.
So
Yes.
it could hurt you financially.
So yes, we said absolutely. Like you said, if that's not our area of expertise, we absolutely should make that investment and seek out those that are expert in that area.
Correct.
And so, can we for a moment, can we just talk about the different filing statuses and how do we know what status to file?
Okay, there are several different filing statuses, and it's all the key to your filing status is what's your marital status. Okay, the filing statuses are single, married filing joint, married filing separate, head of household, or qualified widower with a dependent. If you're single, meaning you're not married, or you're married and got divorced, then you are considered to be single. If you're married, living with your spouse, or not living with your spouse, if you went to the church, got married, went to the courthouse, got married, if you are considered married on December the 31st of the year, then you're considered married. You can then have two options as to how you can file. You can either file married, filing a joint return with your spouse, where the two of you will report all of your income and expenses together, or you can file married filing separate, meaning you as a married person is going to file a separate return from your spouse. Now, I would not recommend people to use married filing separate status, because that's the filing status where you get the highest tax rates. So if you're married, y'all need to work out your differences and file that return
Yes.
together. Okay.
File it together.
Yeah, file it together. Then there's head of household.
Yes.
Head of household status is for individuals who are either single, or they couldn't be married but not living with their spouse, have not lived with their spouse for some years, and they have a dependent child that they can claim as a dependent. The tax code is set up, the laws are set where you can file as head of household, and you get special breaks and special consideration for other credits and deductions that you can take. And then the last filing status is a qualifying widower with a dependent. That means your spouse passed, and for 2 years after your spouse passed, you're allowed to file as a qualified widower with a dependent. If you have you have to have a dependent child, and you get some tax breaks in that particular area.
Yes.
But those are the filing statuses. And again, as you can see, it all ties into how you are married, and whether or not you're married or not married.
Right. So that has a big deal to do with how we file according to our status, if we're married or if we are single.
Right.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you touched a little bit about dependents, but can you just share a little bit more about dependents and exemptions?
Okay. All right. I'm going to take it from this standpoint. When we look at exemptions, there are personal exemptions and dependent exemptions. Personal exemption would be, for instance, you and Eric. Y'all's personal exemption is an exemption that you're going to be allowed for you and one for Eric. Those are your personal exemptions. Those personal exemptions have a dollar amount that go along with them, which is added up to use to reduce your taxable income. For an individual, one person, the exemption amount is $4,050. So you have personal exemption. If you and Eric were filing y'all return, the way the tax return is set up, you'd have all of your personal information, name, address, social security number, The next section is this section that deals with personal exemption. You would put, boom, a personal exemption for you and Eric. So y'all would have two personal exemptions. Then the next section is where you list out your dependents. Dependents are your children or anyone that you are qualified to take as a dependent.
Yes.
And so your dependents exemptions are your children. It could be your parents. It could be another relative that you are taking care of, or living with you and you're taking care of. It could be someone that's not related to you, if certain criteria is met. But that criteria would mean that they have to live with you. You have to pay their support and everything. So that's what exemptions and dependents, and you add all of those up. So say, for instance, you came up with a total of 5 exemptions. So you take 5 times $4,050, that amount will be put on the tax return. It will be used to reduce your taxable income, and then we'll determine what your tax is based off of your income and your exemptions.
Wow.
And then there's some other things that go into the computation as well.
Yes.
One of the things that's really big now that a lot of people are talking about is with the changes that the president and have come up with.
Yes.
The impact is standard deductions and itemized deductions.
We'll talk about that.
With the tax changes that are going to be coming up beginning in 2018, there's going to be an increase in the exemption and the standard deduction. In essence, what they've done is they've taken the standard deduction and now added the standard deduction and the personal exemptions together. So for a single individual beginning in 2018, that deduction is going to now be $12,000. For a married couple, that deduction is going to be $24,000. But it does away with the standard deductions that are now in place, because if for a single individual the standard deduction now is $6,350, so you would take the $6,350 and your $4,050 for your exemption. Well, that amount now, that's $10,000, a little over $10,000. Well, that's now going up to just be $12,000. It'd be one line item adjustment on the return. That's a big change. This whole new tax laws that are coming into play are supposed to be geared around stimulating the economy. I'm going to be a little political here. I'm not certain that's going to take place. With any tax changes that come about, the government always are operating on the fact that this is what they anticipate will happen. One of the things is that the tax rates for individuals like ourselves is being reduced by 3%, where there's supposed to be a 3% reduction in the amount of taxes that we're going to pay. But for corporations, it's roughly 12-13%. With the big reduction for the corporation is that when they get that big reduction in their taxes, that they're going to create new jobs. And those new jobs will then help the individual people. Well,
do you believe that?
I was around when President Ronald Reagan had that same philosophy. It didn't, trickle-down economics didn't work then. I don't think it's going to work now. Because when those big corporations start getting those breaks, they're going to first look to make sure that they're taking care of their shareholders.
It's true.
And their shareholders may not be happy with them creating new jobs. They may want those benefits that they're getting to be distributed out to the shareholders in the form of dividends. So we really don't know. It's a speculation. It could work. I don't think it's going to work. That's just me personally. I just don't think that trickle-down economics is going to work. It didn't work. It didn't work during Reagan's era. I don't think it's going to work now. And that's just my personal feeling.
Absolutely.
And,
yes, Apostle. I mean, we are all entitled to our personal opinions. And so, Apostle, I wanted to ask you, what are the consequences if we don't pay our taxes?
If you don't pay your taxes, first of all, you're going to end, if the IRS finds out that you have not filed your return, they're going to come and they're going to ask you to file the return. Then you're going to end up having to pay the taxes. You're going to end up having to pay penalties, and then you're going to end up having to pay that interest that goes along with it from the time that you did not file until the time that you actually get it filed. If what you've done is egregious enough, it could end up to where you could end up in tax court, and it could end up, for some people, if it's bad enough, where they could end up going to jail for it.
Wow.
I mean, if you keep up with the news and stuff, there are people who end up going to jail for tax fraud. So it just depends on how bad and how egregious your non-filing of taxes is.
Wow.
There are people who have gone years without filing tax returns, and then when they finally get caught up, the cost is can be very, very painful and costly.
That's so amazing, because there are different celebrities and well-known people that have a lot of money, that you may assume that they are surrounded by the necessary people to make sure that those type of things don't happen, but yet they still happen. Why do you think that maybe celebrities or famous people with a lot of money, why do you feel that even though the assumption is they have a team of people surrounding them to help them in that area, that some of them end up, as you said, being in prison for many years because they didn't file their taxes for so many years in a row?
Because people are given a choice.
Wow.
And though what you normally find is the people that don't file taxes or that cheat on their taxes, just to say it like that, just cheat on their taxes, is because they're upset with the tax system. They don't feel that the system is fair. And again, like I said earlier, the system is not, there's no way you can put a system in place where everybody's going to be happy with how it's set up.
Right.
And because they feel that the system is not fair, they make a conscious decision to either not file their returns or to do things that they know that could be, they'll walk up to the line and feel like they can lean over and look over the line and not step over the line. And they make those conscious decisions and those choices. It's just like when Eve had the conversation with the serpent, she had a choice. Either listen to the serpent and do what he asked, what he suggested, or do what she had been taught by God. And she chose to eat. People choose not to file or to file false returns.
Right. And you know what? I think this is so incredible because even you brought out earlier that, it's biblical. Filing our taxes is biblical. You know how it talks about in scripture, as you stated, how we have to give Caesar what is Caesar's, but give God what is God's.
Yeah.
And so, it's biblical that we file our taxes. And as you stated, even though we may not have full confidence in different systems of this world, that this is something that is God's. You know what I'm saying? This is a God idea. This is biblical that we should file our taxes.
It is. And again, people make these decisions of how they're going to act and react. Are we pushed into certain corners to make certain decisions? In a sense, you could say that we are being pushed and backed into a corner. But you have to, at the end of the day, you have to make the decision, what are you going to do? Because see, God, as believers, God tells us that we're to obey the laws of the land.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
And
yes,
that's plain and simple.
Yes.
As a believer, we are to abide by the laws that man put in place. As long as those laws are not leading you to sin, then you should be following those laws.
Wow.
The tax laws, we may not like them, we may not agree with them, but if those tax laws are not causing you to sin, then you need to do what man has put in place. And where it gets down to is, if you're not happy with the tax laws, then make sure when it comes time to vote,
say that, Apostle,
get out and vote.
Yes.
Get out and vote. 2018 is going to be a big year where there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to get out and exercise their right to vote, so that people can be put in place that can bring about changes in the tax systems, in other laws, and everything that's going on in this country. See, I hate to say this, but in the African American communities, we forget that we should vote more than just when it's a presidential election.
Oh, that's good.
You need to be voting when it's time for those representatives to be voted in. You need to be voting in your local elections when they're doing the city councils, the mayors, and all of these things. Because all of this impacts as it goes up. If you're not putting the right people in place in the lower levels, you're not going to be able to put the right people in place at the higher level.
Wow.
And if you're not happy and satisfied with what's going on, exercise your right to vote.
That's right.
That's the power that you hold. One thing that I hate to hear is somebody say, well, it's just my one vote, it ain't going to matter. Yes, your one vote does matter.
That's right.
Because you matter.
That's right.
And see, by you saying that your one vote don't matter, that means that you are discounting yourself, and you are valuable.
That's right.
God tells us that we're a royal priesthood, a holy nation. So
Yes.
why would you discount yourself? You are valuable. Exercise your right to vote and vote.
That's right. We have to exercise our right to vote and make sure we get out there and vote. You guys, well, we have to take a quick commercial break, but I want you to keep it locked right here. You're listening to WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd
So let's have this conversation.
on WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
You can connect with Maria Byrd here Fridays on The Conversation at 11 a.m. Go to www.mariabird.org. You can sign up for her newsletter. Check out the latest from The Conversation. You can be the next guest, have your song featured, or donate to the cause. Learn about marketing opportunities. Check out the giveaways, special promotions, free tickets, and the latest from Maria Byrd Publications. Again, log on to www.mariabird.org. That's www.mariabird.org.
Rock Beat Clothing. It's fun, it's alive, it's inspirational, it's Christian clothing for everyone. Be sure to stop by www.rockbeatclothing.com today for the latest fresh gear, shoes, hats, shirts, you name it, they've got it. On sale now. That's www.rockbeatclothing.com.
WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
I've been holding in some things. Depression tried to conquer me, but I'm still here. Yeah, yeah. And my past tried to break me down, had me level to the ground, but I'm still standing. I've been set free. This is my year, my year for increase. Oh yeah, this is my year for release. The devil's fighting for my soul, but I'm holding on and won't let go. I'm a champion. Oh yes I am. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was about to lose my mind. Woo. Jesus stepped right in on time, and I'm an overcomer, y'all. I've been set free. This is my year for increase. This is my year. Oh, my year. Oh, yes it is. Oh, this is my year. Oh, yeah. Decree it and declare it, yeah. This is my year. Oh, yeah. My year, yeah. Oh, yeah. For increase. Oh, yeah. Oh, release from my past. Oh, release from that poverty state. Oh, release from no self-esteem. Oh, release from the struggle in my mind. Oh, release. Oh, release.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd.
So let's have this conversation
On WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
What's up? What's up? Welcome back, you guys. You are listening to The Conversation with Maria Byrd. Fashion alert. Need a new hat, jersey, or shirt? To purchase your fresh, innovative, and inspirational apparel today, be sure to go to www.rockbclothing.com. That's www.rockbclothing.com. Also, you just heard the hit song Release from the Harvest Tabernacle Recording Choir CD. And guess what, you guys? It's available right now for purchase on iTunes and all digital media outlets. Where you guys, we are back with my very special guest, Apostle Aaron Rusham. And before the break, we were just talking about the ABCs of filing our taxes. We also talked about the different filing statuses and about dependents and exemptions. And so, Apostle, I just want to dive right in. You know, I have some frequently asked questions as it relates to filing our taxes. And so, let's go, Apostle. You know, the first question is there an age limit to claiming your child as a dependent?
Yes, there is. And that's usually an area where a lot of people get confused. And it can be confusing because the tax laws are confusing. But the general rule is this. You can claim your child as your dependent all the way up until the age of 18. But then after they turn 18, you can continue to claim them as your dependent if they are in college. Well, even with that, there's still some other stipulation. You can claim that child as your dependent if they're a full-time student in college up until the age of 24. Once they turn 24, if they're not in school, you can't be putting them on your tax return. And see, just a personal note.
Yes.
My youngest son was in school, and he decided that being in school just wasn't for him. Well, he was 22. Guess what? I couldn't claim him on my return anymore because he was over the age of 18. He was no longer a full-time student.
Wow.
So that was $4,050 reduction to my income I no longer had.
Wow. OMG. All because he decided to withdraw.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And so, as you stated, if they're a student, then you have until the age of 24. But if they're not in school, then was it 18? 18. Wow. Now, so go to school.
Yeah. Now there's one more stipulation to that.
Yes.
If your child is older than is 24 or older, if they are totally and permanently disabled, then you can continue to claim them on your tax.
Okay, great.
Now, people say, well, what do I have to have to prove that my child is totally and permanently disabled? A statement from your doctor.
Okay.
It just can't be because you have classified them as disabled.
Right.
Because a lot of times we want to, our children do things that we want to say, something got to be wrong with this child.
Right.
That don't work. It's got to be supported by medical documentation that they are totally and permanently disabled.
Wow. And so, Apostle, let me ask you this. How much income can an unmarried dependent student make before he or she must file an income tax return?
Okay. The law states that whenever that you should be reporting all of your income that you've earned. If say your child, they're a high school student and they got a little part-time job, they're not required to file a tax return unless they make at least $10,400. Now, would that negate the fact that they want to file a tax return? No, because if they had that little part-time job and say they made $4,000 or $5,000 over the summer, and their employer was withholding federal income taxes from their paycheck, they can still file a return. You can still claim them as an exemption as long as the only reason that they're filing that return is to get that taxes that was withheld refunded back to them.
Got you. Got you. Wow, Apostle, this is so incredible. I love the information that you are giving us today. We really need this information. And so, what should I do if I make a mistake on my federal return that I've already filed?
Okay, if you know that you've made that return, you can do what's called an amended. You can go in, file an amended return, correct the error, and if there's any tax due, pay that additional tax that's due. Sometimes people omit things or leave things off accidentally, and unbeknownst to them, it could put them in a situation where they're going to get some more money back to them. So if you've come on to a situation where you see that you've omitted something from your return, file an amended return and get it corrected.
Awesome. So we make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. There's always a way of escape.
Yes, there's always a way of escape. Apostle, let me ask you this. What is some strategy regarding filing our taxes that you can give to 501c3s or charities and nonprofit organizations?
Okay. I'm gonna add something to that. Not only 501c3 nonprofit organizations and charities, but to all companies, all individuals and sole proprietors. If you're a business owner, the first thing that you need to do, even before you file your return, even before you start business, is you need to sit down and come up with your business plan and your strategy. Know what it is that you're setting your company up for. That way you can make the right determination as to what type of structure you want your company to be. Do you want to operate as a sole proprietor? Do you want to be a C corporation? Do you want to be 1120S corporation? Do you want to be a partnership? Some people, there was the wave came through where everybody said, "Oh, I'm gonna be a LLC." Well, do you really know what an LLC is?
Tell us.
Do you know what the benefits of being an LLC? Do you know what the downfalls? And a lot of people didn't understand that. Well, and the thing about LLC simply is a limited liability corporation. But with an LLC, you can also file just as a single member LLC, meaning you have set up your business and you can choose to file as a sole proprietor, but still carry the title of LLC.
Wow.
Which means rather than filing a corporate return or a partnership return, you would still file a 1040, but you would have a Schedule C attached to that return. Your LLC information would be reflected on that Schedule C. And then you can be a LLC and choose to file as a C corporation. You can be an LLC and choose to file as an 1120S corporation. 1120S corporation is a corporation that's set up where the income is split between the shareholders, and whatever the profits are from that 1120S is split between the shareholders based off of how they determine. They say we're going to operate 50-50, 50% of the income is going to be mine, 50% of the income is going to be yours. And whenever the bottom line is determined, you've got to report 50% of this money. The other person reports 50% of the money and pay the taxes. The 1120S itself doesn't pay any taxes. Similar to a partnership. A partnership is where 2 or 3 people get together and decide, hey, we're going to start this business venture, and this is how we're going to share in the income and expenses. And at the end of the day, if there's a profit, then the profit is split between all the partnerships, and they get statements from the partnership, and that information has to be carried over to their personal return.
Wow. And so I think that's critical, regarding the strategy, like you said, as far as for businesses, for charities, for nonprofits, for sole proprietors, that it's important, that we get our business plan together. Yeah. We have to get our business plan together.
And see, the other important thing about business plans is this. Unless you getting bankrolled by somebody, you're going to need a business plan, because unless you have the operating capital, you may have to go to a bank. A bank is not going to sit down and talk to you if you don't have a business plan, because they want to know, okay, what's your vision? Where are you going with this thing? How you plan on how you plan on making this thing work? Why should I loan you this money? You appear to be a bad risk to me, because you don't even know what you want to do. You come in there saying, well, I'd like to do. No, you better, when you go into that bank, you better have a business plan together and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And so that's why it's important to have this strategy, your strategy together before you even start out. And I want to touch a little bit about 501s because I didn't say anything about those. First of all, one thing that everybody needs to understand is every idea and every business venture that you have cannot be an exempt organization. Everything can't, you're not going to get a 501c3 exemption for everything that you do. There are certain criteria that has to be met in order for you to get 501c3 status. And there are so many different levels of 501c3 statuses out there. So you have to make sure that you understand what it is that you want to do, where you're going to fall. Are you going to be just a nonprofit, or are you going to be a foundation? Are you going to be a school? Are you a hospital? All of these things have different 501c3 statuses that are given to it. So that's why it is so important that you make sure that you understand what it is you want to do before you jump out there and start filing papers with the Secretary of State declaring that you're this and you're that. And second thing is, you need to make sure that when you're sitting down doing this business planning and you're putting your strategy together, that you have your tax expert in on the conversation. They can give you guidance and direction. Some of the things they're going to tell you, you may not like. Because one of the things that a lot of people tell me is that, but that's not what I want to do. Well, that may not be what you want to do, but that's what the laws say you can do. And so you would rather be told the truth up front than be shown the truth later. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, Apostle, let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest mistakes that businesses or organizations make regarding filing their taxes?
The biggest thing is that it begins with the planning. They don't plan on what they're going to do. And the biggest problem in not planning means that you're not organized. The law states that for every person that's required to file tax returns, or if you have a business or anything, that you're required to keep books and records. A lot of people will start businesses, but they don't set up the proper accounting system, the bookkeeping system. You've got to have books and records in place. First of all, how are you going to know how much you make? How are you going to know what your expenses are if you don't have some means of accounting for the income and the expenses that are taking place in your operation? So that's one of the major problems that you see is that they'll have good ideas, they'll have good intentions, and they'll be out there doing things, and it may seem to be working. In their eyes, it's working because who's going to call their own baby ugly? And they're going to say, yes, it's doing great, I'm doing great. But when you really sit down and look at what the money that's coming in and what you're paying out, it may not be. So the biggest problem that a lot of people have is that we don't set up the proper books and records to be able to give us an indication of what we're doing. Because you're not going to want to continue. Nobody goes out and does business to lose money. Right. Everybody's in it with the intent that I'm going to make money. How are you going to know if you're making money if you're not keeping up with what's coming in and what you're spending out?
Wow. That's so
that's
powerful.
That's the biggest problem that I see with a lot of people, a lot of businesses. And it's not just your everyday people. It's not just your small company. You have large companies that are not doing the right thing.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So we have to make sure that we're keeping records, that we're keeping our books correct, so that, like you said, we know how much is coming in and we know how much is going out. Let me ask you this, Apostle. What was the biggest misconception or issue that you had regarding filing taxes, and how did you overcome that?
My biggest misconception was that everybody don't have to file. How I overcame it was when I actually got the training on who's required to file, why they're required to file, and when you're required to file. That's how I overcame that. Yes. Because you're in college and we're thinking about everything but
taxes. Exactly.
When I was in high school, I didn't know nothing about filing tax returns.
Me either.
And then when you get hit with that reality, really? You mean okay.
Right, absolutely.
So it was like a light was cut on, and I was like, this thing is scary. I didn't realize all of this.
Right. Like you said before, a young person, a college student, or an individual, a young adult, filing taxes, that could be a scary concept, to really try to take a grasp on. That, you might not be a dependent anymore. And so now it's your responsibility to make sure that every year that you file your taxes.
Yeah. And nowadays, with so many young people having business ventures of their own,
yes,
they need to make sure that they're taking care of things as it relates to their taxes.
Absolutely.
So young people, if you got your little side businesses, your little side hustles going on, you need to come see me.
Absolutely. They need to come see you, Apostle.
That's right.
And so, Apostle, can you talk about audits, and what should an individual or entity do if they're being audited?
Okay, let me give you how that whole process worked. Because when I was with the Internal Revenue Service, I was actually in the area where we did the audits.
Oh, wow.
I started out as an auditor. I started out auditing simple 1040 returns, and by the time I finished, I'm able to do businesses, large companies. I've been on the audits of some Fortune 500 companies.
Wow.
So the first thing that's going to happen is that you're going to get a letter. People, if folk are calling you on your cell phone, your home phone, telling you that they from the IRS and they're going to take you to court and stuff, it's a scam. The IRS does not contact you by telephone until after they've contacted you by letter. You've responded to their letter, and then you've given them permission to call you on the phone.
Oh, wow.
So the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to receive a letter from the IRS, and they're going to say, for this year, for the year ending December the 31st, 2015, your income tax return has been selected for audit. These are the things that we're going to look at. This is the items that you need to be prepared to answer. And this is the date that you are scheduled for your examination. Now you need to contact us in X amount of days to confirm that you got this letter. What you need to start doing, the first thing that you need to do is pick up the phone and call the people. Avoiding them does not help you, because that starts putting in that auditor and that examiner's mind that you got something to hide.
Wow.
So they start looking even closer. I trained them to do that. I was trained to do that, and after I was trained to do it, I trained people to do it.
So this is a key nugget right here. I want to put a quarter in the meter right here. This is key. If you are being audited, or if you received a letter, it's so significant and key that we return the phone call. Because as you said, if we try to avoid them, that's a red flag for them to
look closer.
Look closer.
Look closer. And then once you confirm your appointment date, start pulling your records together for the issues that they're going to be looking at.
Wow.
And that's why it's important for you to have your books and records set up.
Right.
So all you got to do is just say, okay, here we go. Here's this. But if you've not kept books and records over the year, then you're gonna be sweating bullets.
Right.
But you don't have to sweat, because there's always a way.
Yes.
There's always a way to come back. But it's best if you have your books and records set up where once you get that letter, you can just pull your stuff together and go in there with confidence.
Absolutely.
Now, you may want to make sure you go with some help.
Yes.
If you don't feel you can handle it by yourself, you need to make sure that you go in there with representation. That's like going to court and you're not an attorney.
That's good. We have to make sure that in those situations, we may need to have representation.
That's right. Correct.
Wow. And so, Apostle, let me ask you this, because some individuals receive tax returns. And so what should we do with our tax returns?
Okay, making the assumption that when you say you receive tax return, that means you're getting a refund when you file your taxes. Again, that goes to planning. What do you want to do with that money? The prudent person would tell you, invest it or put it away for a rainy day. The person who's been oppressed, depressed all year long, gonna say it's time to have a good time. You know, we're gonna splurge. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. What I suggest you do is this: treat yourself out. You know, have your nice dinner, whatever. But take the rest of that money and make sure that you're doing something positive with it. Make sure that you know, if you see, businessmen become rich, not because when they get breaks and stuff, they take it and splurge. They take it and they reinvest it in their company.
Oh, that's good.
Because see, what made them the money was the business itself. Therefore, rather than spend the money on themselves personally, they're going to reinvest it in that company so that company can make them more money. And then when they get to a point where they're overflowing with money, then they splurge.
Yes.
And then they have the long vacations, and they go to the resorts and all of those things. But you got to make sure that you're taking care and you're taking the small steps. The biggest thing that I would say with most people is this: when you're doing your tax planning, it's not good. I'm not a big advocate of people getting big tax refunds because most people don't realize this is what you're doing is that you're allowing the government to have free use of your money for the entire year. The object, utopia, would be that when you finish preparing your tax return, the bottom line is that you don't owe no money, but you ain't getting no money.
That's right, Apostle.
Because that means that you have had absolute use of all of your money throughout the entire year, rather than letting the government have you. Because when you get that refund, that's saying that you've allowed the government to have your money all year long for 365 days free.
Wow.
And they ain't going to pay you no interest.
Come on, Apostle. Wow.
You see, if you had that money yourself and you were getting it every week, you can pay some bills and you can put some aside.
Wow. Really quick, Apostle, can you just tell us about your book really quick?
My book is entitled Setting the House in Order. It's getting ready to go into revision. And the reason I have to go into revision is because the tax laws have been revised.
Wow.
So this book is basically this one was geared more towards pastors and ministry leaders, helping them have some insight on things that they should be doing so that they wouldn't be burdened with taxation.
Wow. That's awesome, Apostle.
The Lord spoke to me about a year ago, and He says it's time for you to revise the book. And I didn't listen real well. I didn't understand that they were going to be making all these major tax changes. So with these tax changes, I now see that I'm going to have to revise the book. And the revision of the book is going to be where it covers more than just ministry leaders. It's going to cover the average everyday person.
That's awesome,
so that
Apostle.
Everybody can get a understanding of what their tax obligations are and how they can not be taxed by taxation, but profit from taxation.
Wow, awesome. Can you tell the people, how can we connect with you?
Okay. If you want to connect with me business-wise, you can reach me at www.adrconsultinggroup.com, or you can hit me up on Facebook. You can call me on my phone. I don't mind. 404-452-6495. I'll give out my number because I want you to contact me because I want to be able to be a blessing to you.
Wow,
I want to be able to help you. And then if anyone that's listening today, if you listening today and you give me a call, you get one free consultation.
Wow, one free consultation if you contact Apostle today. That is so awesome. Well, you guys, we had a great show. I want you to make sure that you tune in next week. We have something absolutely amazing prepared for you. I want to thank my special guest, Apostle Aaron Russian. Apostle, will you come back?
Oh, surely I'll come back. You just let me know when you want me to come back.
Awesome,
I'll be back.
Yes.
I've enjoyed myself today.
Well, you guys, we had an awesome show. I want you to tune in next week, same time, same place on WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
Like it's a touchdown. Finally found me someone I can really trust now. Always had so much to say, but no one to say it to.
Thank you for tuning in to The Conversation with Maria Byrd every Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on WIGO 1570 AM Radio.
So let's have this conversation like a radio station.
WIGO AM 1570, Morrow, Atlanta.
You guys, we had a great show. Apostle, before we go, I want you to just give the people your contact information one more time.
Okay, my website is www.adrconsultinggroup.com.
Yes.
And you can also call me at 404-452-6495. Instant message me on Facebook. Just be a friend and instant message me, and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Apostle, for being my very special guest. And you guys, I want to thank you so much. This is his book, Setting the House in Order. So be sure to contact him to receive this awesome book today. And you guys, I just want you to tune in next week. And thanks so much for listening to Maria Byrd with The Conversation.